Right, so are we ready to run? Today is hopefully getting to the conclusion we need to sort out. Remember the question we've been sitting with, which was from Rabbi Hagorn. Oh, nice to see Malcolm's joined us. Good, Malcolm. Hope you found that fascinating, especially as a Baal Tokeh yourself. Hope you found some of those, the blowing useful. Good.
Fascinating. It was fascinating.
Good. Nice to see. Actually, it's had quite a few hits, I can see, if you go on online. Now, we are back to let's just remind ourselves where we are. Remember, we brought Rashi's view, we brought the Tosfos' view, and I'll just remind ourselves where we are. There are two views, if you remember, about the Teruah. Is the Teruah, as we've got here, it says Sholosh Yavaros, 3 short notes. Rashi takes that spot on. It's 3 short notes, and that's the end of that. Tosfos, remember, that was his son-in-law and the grandson disagreeing with Zaidi. They say, no, Yavava itself is 3 notes. So if it's a Teruah, therefore, is 9 notes. 3 threes, 9 notes. Okay, and I think that's where my son in the tape, he talks about keeping it short and sweet. We paskin like Tosfos, which means it's 9 notes. It's interesting, if someone did blow just 3 notes, you would be Yotzer. Because we paskin that we mentioned that I think last time, the Mishnah Berurah says that if you actually blow like Rashi's view, which is just 3 notes, that's a Teruah, you are Yotzer. But that's not the minhag. You'll find other people, there'll be a bit of an uproar, maybe, hopefully. If a person is not blowing 9 notes, everybody knows 9 notes, because that is the universal custom that we blow the Teruah 9 notes. Which also means that the shever is normally 3 notes. When I say 3 notes, it's the time it takes to blow 3 notes at least. So it's greater than 3 notes. So or
Norman,
if you're blowing up.
Norman, your son said he blows at least 13.
Yes, 11, I think.
You said 13.
You say 13, 11. Yeah, as a professional, you may find Malcolm, I'm sure will probably agree, it's very hard to actually count. If you're not a professional Baal Tokeh professional, if you're not a Baal Tokeh, you'll think 9 notes, one after the other, that fast. It's very hard to imagine that is really 9 notes. I'm sure there was only 7 or 8. Where in fact you've blown 9, so just to avoid any problems, he keeps going a little bit longer. I think he does 11, or perhaps you mentioned 13. So he certainly does more than 9, and that way it even sounds like he's done 9. And I think also there is a problem stopping too sharp. So yeah, but the actual halacha is if you can blow 9, just blow 9. It's probably, as he said, it is probably advisable to have those extra couple of notes. The shever, each one of the shavorim, there are going to be 3 shavorim. Each shever, as we say, is the time it takes normally to blow 3 sounds. So it's yeah. Or if you're going up, for shavorim. And shavorim Teruah will be a combination of those 2. So if a shever, let's say, is the time it takes to blow 3, 1 shever, you're blowing 3 shavorim. So 3 threes are 9. Which is therefore the same time it would take you to blow 9 notes as a Teruah. So therefore, if you're blowing Tekiah, Shavorim Tekiah, the Tekiah should be the time it takes to blow 9 notes. If you're blowing Tekiah, Teruah Tekiah, the Tekiah, because you remember the sandwich? Either side of the sandwich is the same as the main event of the sandwich, the middle part. So if it's a Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, the Tekiah will be the length of the 3 Shavarim in between. 3 threes are 9. So a long note lasting 9, how long it takes you to get 9, whether it's a Shavarim or the Teruah. The only difference is, however, if you're blowing Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, Tekiah, again, the side, either side of the sandwich. Now the middle part is a shavorim and a teruah. Shavorim is the time to blow 9. Teruah is the time to blow 9. 9 plus 9 is 18, and therefore you do need the time it takes to actually blow 18 sounds for that long tekiah, shavorim, teruah, tekiah. Okay, bear that in mind, please. Now, we had a little bit of a problem here, if you remember, because the Mishnah spoke about truas. And this was the big question we've had. The Brisa spoke about shavorim. Remember? Then we had in Daf Lamed Daled Omid Aleph, we brought Rab Avohu in Caesarea, who instituted something different. Tekiah, shavorim, teruah, tekiah. In the sistering here called Kashrak. Kashrak, tekiah, shavorim, teruah, tekiah. Do you remember? He instituted this new sound for the middle of the shofar. That's what we do today. Tekiah, the shavorim, and a teruah. Now, what's fascinating, I'm going back to this Gemara, and I'll tell you why. Have a look at 6 lines up in Daf Lamed Daled Omid Aleph. Maskif lo Rav Avira. This is Chazorah, but I'm going to specifically point out something here. Rav Avira came forward and said, just 1 minute. You, Rav Avor, are very concerned. You're not sure. Remember we said before, is it a shavorim sound or a teruah sound? You therefore blow both. So the question raised by Rav Avira was, when you blow your tekiah, shavorim, teruah, tekiah, if you're meant to be blowing a teruah, then you've got in between your tekiah, your initial tekiah and your teruah, you've got a shavorim in between. That's no good. That's a hefsek, isn't it? V'dilma yululi havik v'kom mafsik. Shloisha shavorim bein teruah lekiah. Okay, understand that we understand that question. If you are of the view that it's tekiah teruah, then you've got a shavorim in between. Answer the Gemara, no, he blew the tekiah teruah, he blew the tekiah teruah tekiah as well. Then someone else comes forward, Ravina. Now, it's an obvious question. Once you've asked the question that way, you can ask the question the other way around, which is, if you, Rav Avor, of the opinion that it should be a shavorim, then you've now got a hefsek of your teruah after the shavorim to the tekiah at the end. You with me? It's the same question, focusing, if you're of the opinion it's a shavorim, then the teruah will act as a hefsek. Yeah? So the Gemara brings from Ravina a different individual. Now, it's the same question. Why wasn't it the same person asking 2 questions? Interesting, you've got to have Rav Avira say, maybe it's a teruah, and you've got a hefsek with a shavarim. And then we find a totally different Amora, Ravina, coming forward, maybe, actually, it's a shavarim, in which case the teruah is hefsek. You don't need, imagine in a class, you'd have somebody asking the question, you don't need, it's the same question, the same, whether you're focusing on the shvuah or the teruah, each way round, you with me? You're going to have a gap, a hefsek, a break between your tekiah. If it's a shavarim, the gap will be the shavarim and the final tekiah. If the correct note is the teruah, then you'll have a gap, a hefsek, or more than a gap, actually a break in the sound between the tekiah and the shavarim. But it's interesting, we have 2 different Amoroim, and the answer to that question, if you remember, was that no, he blows tekiah, shavarim, tekiah as well, right? And then the Gemara said, well, if you're blowing both and you were unsure which one it was, in Yiddish, what have you verdient? What did you gain by blowing tekiah, shavarim, teruah, tekiah? You're anyway blowing tekiah, shavarim, tekiah, and tekiah, teruah, tekiah. So Rav Avor said, no, it could be another sound, a shavarim and a teruah, and therefore I'm blowing that as well. So that's where we have our custom today to blow all three. So the question I'm just focusing on, we'll need that, is why does it need a different Amora, and they're not like sitting next to each other in the classroom, a different Amora to ask the question. It's the same question. You with me? Where the gap in between the tekiah and the shavarim, or a gap between a teruah, a gap between the shavarim and a tekiah at the end, or a tekiah on a teruah. It's the same type of question, just focused on a different note. Yeah, okay? So I just want to finish a little bit more of this Tosfos before we go on to the additional attachment that Peter arranged for us. But before we do, if you remember, we have the view of Rashi, the view of Tosfos. I want to pick this up. It says Achshov Noagim. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 narrow lines up in Tosfos. I think that's where we're up to. Achshov Noagim Litkaya is the beginning of the line. 2, 3, 4, 5 lines up. The beginning of the line is, have people got that? 5 narrow lines up in Tosfos. Lamed Gimel Omid Base.
Lamed Gimel Omid Base, okay.
Yeah, have people got Lamed Gimel Omid Base? 5 narrow lines up. The beginning of the line is Litkia in my edition. Hopefully you too. Got right. 2 words earlier than that. It says, Achshav Noagim. Now we have the custom. Litkar b'yeshiva. We blow like sitting down. People don't have to stand for this, but of course the minig is we do. After Kriyas HaTorah, the 30 kolos. Why 30? Tekiah Shavarim Teruah Tekiah is 4. Tekiah Shavarim Teruah, Tekiah Shavarim Tekiah, another 3. Tekiah Teruah Tekiah, another 3. 4, 3, 3. Yeah, Bill Nicholson was, remember you said 4-3-3, wasn't it? Oh, he's more 4-2-4 man. I'm sorry. Oh, Bill, yeah, he was a 4-2-4 man. I'm sure Robert will correct me on that if I'm wrong. I think it's a 4-2-4. But the 4-3-3 system means you blow tekiah shavarim teruah tekiah, tekiah shavarim tekiah, tekiah teruah tekiah. In total, you got 10 plus the goalkeeper. There's your 10. So
Norman, I've lost you. Where are you? You Lamed Gimel Omid Base on the
Lamed Gimel
Tosfos.
Omid Base, 5 narrow lines up in Tosfos.
5 narrow lines up.
Up.
1 second. Perish HaKuntras. Achshav Noagim Litkar b'yeshiva. Oh, I see. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I got it.
That's all right. Very good.
Yeah.
La'achar Kriyas HaTorah.
Why do they stress b'yeshiva? I mean, I agree that we have them in a stand. What is important about
I tell you why. I've a very good point. These are called tekiyas demiyushav. You're not in the middle of the Amida. Whereas the repetition, you're meant to be standing for chazoras hashatz. So they're called the tekiyas demu'umud. Particularly if among the Sfardim, the Hasidim, who Nusach Sfar, they actually blow during the quiet Amida. So clearly that's why they're called Tekiyas de Mu'umud, and these are called Tekiyas de Miyushav. It's before the Amida, you could actually sit down, nothing wrong with sitting down. We do normally stand. So it's just to differentiate between the two. So we blow these 30, in other words, that's absolutely right. If we blow tekiah shavarim tekiah, tekiah shavarim tekiah, tekiah teruah, you've covered all your options. You do that 3 times. In fact, the way we do it is tekiah shavarim teruah tekiah, 3 of those, then tekiah shavarim tekiah, 3 of those, and then tekiah teruah tekiah, 3 of those. In total, you'll have 30. Remember, we're counting shavarim as 1, and we're counting the 9 notes of a teruah at least as 1. Just for this example, that's classified therefore as 30. We blow all those 30, keep going, and Gimel Karak, Gimel Kashrak, Gimel Kashak, Gimel Karak. Therefore, we've covered all our options. Ubitfila Toikim, but however, in the Amida, normally the Chazor Sashatz, according to the Ashkenaz, even as far they would blow in the Chazor Sashatz as well. And then we blow for Malchios Kashrak. Now this is fascinating. Zichronos kashak, of course, during the Amida, the long Rosh Hashanah Amida, when we've got Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofros. Yeah? Remembering the Rebbeinu as the Melech, Zichronos, and of course Shofros as well, Psukim that we've mentioned about the Shofar. For Malchis, Zichronos, and Shofros, each he blows Kashrak for one, Kashak for another, and Karak for another, which is very strange. We blow at the beginning 30 because we don't know which is the correct one. Continue Tosfos. If you look at the whole text, what's going on here with this doubt about what's correct, you should blow Bishas Tfilah for Malchios, Kashrak, Kashak, Karak, and you know you've covered all your options. V'cheina Zichronos, v'cheina Shofros. Yeah? What is the point of blowing just Kashrak for Malchios, just Kashak for Zichronos, and just Karak? Yeah, you've got one right, 1 out of 3. Well, it's not, but if you want to cover your options, why don't you blow? Or he says, or if you want to, you didn't blow then, blow after davening. But if you want to capture, you can't just capture Kashrak for one, Kashak for the other, and Karak for the other. Okay, now stop there. Very interesting. If you look in the Shulchan Aruch of Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, of course, it talks here about what you blow during the Amida. Machzir shlich tzibah tefillah, and says the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, v'toikin al seder habrachas, lemalchios tashrat, once, zichronos tashat, uleshofros tarat. And that seems to be, Sammy will tell, I don't know, Sammy Minity will tell us if that is the minig in the north, they'll say the Sfadim who are following the Shulchan Aruch. But of course, says Tosfos, Ashkenaz, is very strange. If the whole point is you're trying to cover your options, then you've got to do all 3. It's 1 out of 3 is not good enough. Okay? Continues Tosfos, we can skip that next bit. He asks the same kasha again. We don't need that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm skipping a bit. Long Tosfos.
Well, by the way, it would be 2 out of 3, not 1 out of 3, because if one of them is correct, then Kashruk would certainly be correct, and one of the other 2 would be correct. But you're right, isn't it?
It's a good point, other than the point about the hefsek.
The hefsek, yeah, the hefsek.
The hefsek, which could be a problem, but no, you've taken a very good point. Very good point. Because look at the Tosfos here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide lines down in that Tosfos. He goes into another point which we don't need for the moment. 6 wide lines down, halfway through the line. V'alminag shalonu. You got it? Beginning of the line is tekiah. 6 wide lines down. You got it in the Tosfos? 6 wide lines down in Tosfos. The first word is tekiah. Somebody can put their thumb up if they've got it. They've got it. Good. Well done there. Keep going until you get to the middle of that line. V'alminag shalonu. Tosfos going back on what he said before. Hoyotamir Rabbeinu Tam. There we are. Rabbeinu Tam himself was very surprised. The Kashrak Shel Malchios. Here he's spelling out the question we've just asked. If you're blowing Kashrak for Malchios and Kashak the Zichronos and Karak the Shofros, which indeed the Shulchan Aruch does, and it seems like that's still the minig in Sfardisha communities, Soisrin Zeh Ezer. What's a Soiser stira? They contradict each other. De'i Gonach v'Yolil. If it's like Rabbi Avohu, remember, who says the actual correct note is a Shvarim and a Trua, Kulhu boy lemebed kashrak. For Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofros, you should blow kashrak for all of them. The igonach lechud, if it's correct, it's just a shavarim like the Brisa said it was. Kulhu boy lemebed kashak. You should do kashak for each one. The yilil, and if in fact it's yilil was, remember the short notes, the trua is correct. Kulu karak. Does not like the minhag quoted earlier in Tosfos, and as I say, the minhag Sfard, and therefore, very interesting, the minhag of Rabbeinu Tam. Vehinig Rabbeinu Tam, bim koimenu, in our places, in Ashkenaz, litkoya gama zichronos ba'ashofros kashrak. It's a bit like you were saying, Simon. They only blew kashrak for Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofros. And it's brought here in the Ramah for Moshe Isserlis, also talking about Minhag Ashkenaz. Yeshonim shetokin tashrat lemalchias once, and for Zichronos and Shofros. Of course, then you've blown 3 sets, which is great. That's all you need to blow. But now the problem is, what about the hefsek? Have a look back at Tosfos. Kashrak kamoba.
Sorry, Norman. Can I just ask how come in Nusach Ashkenaz you don't blow during the silent Shmoneh Esrei?
The main minhag, it's the other way around. I think the question really is, why is it the Nusach Sfard do blow during the Sfard Hamida? That's a very good point. It says the Mishnah Berurah, the Shulchan Aruch does not mention about blowing during the silent Amida, even for Nusach Sfard. It's mentioned in the Mishnah Berurah, v'yesh makomos. There are some places that blow in the silent Amida. And the source mentioned here in my Mishnah Berurah, it's more, I say, the Nusach Hari, we're really talking about the Nusach Hari, blowing during the quiet Amida. And say he mentions here a lot of Hasidim, Baharbe Anshe Maisa, in Yerushalayim, these Pashas never come to Makomos. It just says what the source is. Interesting. I'll continue on the Mishnah Berurah. Simon,
Norman, Edgeworth does blow during the silent Amida.
Really?
Edgeworth does, yeah. I was there some years ago and I was kind of taken aback, didn't quite know what to do. But there we go.
They done Nusach Ashkenaz there, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting, because that's all I can say is that it must have been the original Rav. Who was the original Rav there?
Oh, it's before
right
Rabbi
at the beginning.
Forgotten his name.
I mean, is it actually affiliated to Nusach Sfard? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I can't answer that question.
Yes, I think I also seem to call his brother was a big Rav somewhere as well. I think I can't remember.
Well, of course, it was Rav Lopian, wasn't it?
Rav Lopian was in the Federation, the Yeshurun.
Oh, it's in the Federation, right. But so maybe it originally started as a Nusach Sfard. So back to your question, Simon Adler. Let me just finish. I will aim your point. He says the minhag. He said, although there are some shuls that do that, the Mishnah Berurah is advising it's a tricky one to do because it's mevalvel hamispalalim. It does cause a bit of trouble, confusion. First of all, everybody's got to be at that place. You've got to make sure you're at the same place at the same time. So therefore, it's some people who had that meeting during the quiet Amida, but that is now the minority, and not mentioned even in the Shulchan Aruch. So it's something which is the minhag Arizal. It's more probably on the Kabbalah in Yonim. rather than mentioned here in the mainstream Shulchan Aruch, according to Nusach Sfard or Ashkenaz, really. So yeah, so I don't know if that's your minhag. Let's just go back to Rabbeinu Tam. So back now to this, the minhag of Rabbeinu Tam, therefore, was Tekiah, Shavorim, Trua, Tekiah, for Malchias, Zichronis, and Shofras. Back, let's just finish this bit of Tosfos. Beginning of the line is Yolil. Have you got it? Beginning of the line Yolil in Tosfos? Yeah, got Yolil in Tosfos? So there's 8 wide lines down in Tosfos. Vehinig Rabbeinu Tam bimkomeinu litzkoa gamma zichroinus v'ashofros kashrak. We always blow, according to Rabbeinu Tam, the hashta nofik mikol sveike. There, and I think this was a point you mentioned, Simon, you've covered yourself in many ways. You've got the Tekiah Shavorim and a Trua. The only problem with that, carry on, Veleka ela hefsek. There's a hefsek. That's true. There is a hefsek. And therefore, Rabbi Bo was not pleased with that. Without check. Now, don't forget, you have actually heard the Tekiyas at the beginning before the Amida. So if it's only because of the Hefsek, that's not such a problem. Okay? He's not too worried about this Hefsek. Okay. It is interesting, the Mishnah Berurah does mention that minhag of blowing only 3. He says exactly that. He says we're not concerned because we have already blown the shofar before, and there we really blew all the options. If it's only because of the hefsek, that is not such a concern because we have already blown the shofar, really been yotzer when we blew at the very beginning. Let me just say how we finish. Says the Mishnah Berurah, it's quoted from the Shloh, Shai Horovitz, the derech hamuvcha, the choice way, the best way to do, to blow during the repetition of the Amida, or even the quiet Amida, is litzka tashrat, or kashrak, kashak, karak. And that's exactly what we do, if you remember. We do actually blow all options for Malchias, Zichronos, and Shofros. Right? That, how many will that be now? So we blown 30 before the Amida. Nusach Ashkenaz would have blown another 30, 10 each time with me. That's 60. If you want to blow 100, which is seems to be the well-known minhag of blowing 100 kolos, then you're short of 40. So then it would be depend on your minhag. Some people blow 30 and then 10 at the very end after Anim Zmiris, or some people do 10 and 30. But really, you've covered yourself once you've got the Tekiyas before the Amida and the Tekiyas during the Amida, those 60, that's really, you've covered yourself. We, as I say, we do try to blow the 100. Important to note, if a person was actually blowing for someone at home, and there'll be plenty of home minyanim, as we've heard and we know, you just need to blow the 30, because the 30 will cover all the options. Remember, you need to blow tekiah, something in the middle, and tekiah 3 times, because the word teruah is mentioned in the Torah 3 times. With a tekiah before and a tekiah afterwards, to cover all our options, we blow all 3. Now, back to
Norman, where does the origin of the 100 come from? What's the makar for the 100?
Very good. It's actually just a line above that.
Line above what?
A couple of lines above, it says tekiah.
Well,
6 wide lines down in Tosfos.
Yeah, your Baba, isn't it?
Behem Meir. No, it does. Actually, it's a line above that. Keneged, one line above, Meir Piois the poor Ema de Sisra. There seems to be a tradition. I can't tell you more than that. There's a tradition that there seem to be these 100 kolos that we're talking about. Remember, it's all linked to the mother of Sisra, We spoke about that, I think, last week, didn't we? The mother of Sisera, and the
Yeah.
lesson that we learned from the mother of Sisera. There seems to be a tradition. There seem to have been some 100 kolos. Can't tell you the source of that other than this Tosfos mentioning it here. And therefore we blow 100 in shul. But really, if you are blowing at home or you're blowing for another individual after davening, 30 is really sufficient, and that's all you need to blow. To anybody, I'm sure Mark would agree, blowing 100 on the trot for somebody in someone's, it's going to be a little bit tricky. It's a lot to blow in one go. So really, we just blow 30 because you've covered yourself with a 30. Okay.
And can you just
Yes,
summarise
Malcolm.
the thing about the hefsek? I know you've said it. So if you're blowing for people at home, you do 30. Where do you do the hefsek? You mentioned the hefsek a few times.
No, but the hefsek point is this. When you blow tekiah, shavorim, trua tekiah, you've actually got all the notes. What is the problem with that? And that was the question raised to Rav Abo. Which one? You've got a tekiah, you've got a shavorim and a trua. But if the correct note was, for example, a shavorim, then you have a trua after the shavorim, which will mess up that shavorim. It's the wrong sound. That's the hefsek. Therefore, you've got to blow as well tekiah, shavorim, tekiah without the trua afterwards.
I see. But you don't have to make a gap, so I misunderstood that. Yeah, okay.
No, that's the hefsek point was...
The hefsek is because it's the wrong note. Okay.
Correct. And similarly, if it's meant to be a teruah, your shavorim will mess up that teruah coming between the tekiah and the teruah. And therefore, to cover that, we blow that as well. But when we, in the repetition of the Amida, according to many Rabbeinu Tam, he wasn't that concerned about that hefsek point. He said we can basically disregard it. We have already blown before the Amida. Don't worry too much about that hefsek there. You've touched on another point, which is quite valid, and that is there a gap between the shvarim? I can see you, Malcolm, 1 second. Is there a gap between the shvarim and the trua? Is it one breath or two breaths? There's a machlokas, not surprising, there's a machlokas whether it's 1 or 2 breaths. The minig, whatever the minig is, that's what you can do. There's some people who do 1 breath and some people do 2. In other words, shavorim, trua. When I say a gap, it will be or you're doing it in one go, without taking a breath. There are 2 different minhagim. Many shuls will do the first 30 in 1 breath, and during the Amida in 2 separate breaths. You with me?
Sorry, you may have covered this. You do it in a different order. You do trua before the shvarim.
No,
I mean,
no, we don't. That was a question.
I know we don't. I know we don't. Sorry?
So, are you asking why we don't? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a shvarim, it could be a trua.
Yes.
Yeah, we always do a shvarim before the trua.
Right, that was a Gemara's question.
Yeah, I just can't remember.
Go back to Lamed Daled Omid Aleph, the Gemara.
Yeah, I've got it, yeah.
It's 2 lines up from the Gemara.
Yeah.
Iochi levet nami ipcha. This is your question.
Yeah.
Why don't we do reverse? Rabbi, you're trying to cover all the options here. You've come up with this new one, the combination. Why don't you blow both? The other way around, trua and tekiah. Again, 2 lines up. Ipcha, tekiah, trua, shloisha, tavarim, and tekiah. Why don't you do trua and then the shvarim? Dilma yolil v'gonach? Question mark. Answers the Gemara. Stoma de milsa. Generally, ki misra inish, when someone's crying, and it's a build-up. Yeah. Milsa, bereisha gonach. It's a moan, and then it's when it gets tougher still, then it moves on to the teruah. So that's the type of cry that we'll be doing, not in reverse, which would be coming down. It's the build-up of this. And I think actually my son mentioned, I think on the tape, this Shalom, who mentions this idea, just like there are, sadly, physical illnesses, similarly for the neshama too. And the tekiah, the beginning, says the Shalom represents the neshama in its beautiful prior to any Averis, And then the crying is like the moaning of the neshama saying something's not quite right, and it could be even more serious, the cry. But the idea is with teshuvah, and that's our thoughts, that we are trying to improve in some way, a little movement to the right. If we can do that, then we can look forward to the final tekiah, which is a straight note, no crying at all. Malcolm, I think you had a question.
Yeah, well, I've got two, well, they're sort of interrelated observation. One is about this, I brought it up before, this thing that we were saying about it's related to the Shvarim Teruah, because if it conceptually, it grew out of the idea that it has to be at one note. It's a composite note, but it actually has got to be considered as one note, because otherwise there's no point to it. I mean, the point is, if you're going to put a note between two tekiyas in order to fulfill the commandment,
Yes.
that you've got to consider it as one note. I mean, it
Yes.
might be made up of what we call a shavarim and what we call a teruah,
Yes.
but it's still one note. In which
Absolutely.
case, then I know, but you so.
No, I see what you're saying.
Counting,
no, 100%.
No, so if you're counting 100,
it
doesn't add up.
I agree. You're saying it should always be classified as three. Even if you're blowing tekiah, shavarim, teruah, tekiah, that's three notes. You are right. Because if the
except for the hefsek, except if you take the concept.
Agreed. But we just classify it for this point as an extra. I know, and that's not Minat Torah. It's much later. It's just for ease of numbering, if you like.
Yeah.
Because really, as we see, the whole idea of the 100 is a minig. And as I say, if you'd be blowing for somebody privately, you wouldn't normally do the 100. It's just a way to count. But you're right. You're quite right.
So the other question, well, related to that was that in most of the sort of histories of the shofar and sort of discussions of the shofar, they always bring up the thing about the Romans, and this idea that it was blown in the shachrit, but then it was taken to be a sort of a call to rebellion, and therefore they stopped blowing it in the morning and brought it later to Musaf. So the point, like, what was the origin of blowing it in the Musaf was something which was sort of historical.
Oh, absolutely. There's a mission about that. Wonderful. Eventually, we'll hopefully get there. It's in this Gemara itself, where you're absolutely right. It started off being, as you would do. If you're shaking the lulav, you shake the lulav for Hallel. You try and do a mitzvah. I say there's always a mitzvah of Zrizi Makdim in a mitzvahs. Nice song for that too. Zrizi Makdim in a mitzvahs. Try and do the mitzvah as soon as possible. So why shouldn't you burn Shacharis? Why should you wait till Musaf? The point was, you're quite right. It was like, taking arms. The Romans were concerned, and therefore they moved it off to later in the day to Musaf, which shows, it's not first thing. But you're absolutely right. It really should be in Shacharis. But of course, nowadays that continues, even though Baruch Hashem, it's not the Romans. But nevertheless, the minhag continues leaving it in Musaf. But there's one question, which is the big question we've been waiting for, and I know that's why people have come tonight. The big question was, how could there be this machlokas? And it's very interesting. Even when it comes, and I think Mervyn mentioned about the minhag of tefillin, where there's Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, but the minhag, the halacha is we paskin like Rashi. There's no question about it. We paskin like Rashi. There are some individuals, there are some, Hasidim or tzaddikim who do wear Rashi, and then at the end of davening they put on Rabbeinu Tam, and that's the point of the difference is there where the parshias are in the tefillin, which way round they go. So there's a machlokes Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam. But everybody agrees, Shulchan Aruch, everybody agrees, we paskin like Rashi. Everybody's tefillin that we're looking at will all be Rashi's tefillin. So if you want an extra chumrah, you do Rabbeinu Tam. So in other words, what I'm saying is this, although there's a machlokes, there's a conclusion. We always paskin. Why, when it came to this, didn't we paskin? Is the Brisa right or the Mishnah? And generally you'd follow a Mishnah compared to a Brisa. How come we've ended up today blowing all these different options make your mind up. One of the things we're very keen on in halacha is you'd go to the Rav and paskin a shaila. Is the meat kosher or treif? You can't, is the sukkah good? Isn't it good? Is it, do we paskin like Rabbeinu Tam or Rashi? If it's fitted, we paskin like Rashi. So how come here we've ended up with not just two, we've got Ramavor coming along later and coming up with a new system we've never heard of. Very strange. Now, gentlemen, I'd like to turn to the attachments for the final answer on this. Let me see if I've got it here. Here we are. Yeah, oh, well done there. Pinch for a bigger view. Thank you for the pinching. Peter, can we give you a job? Can you point with your pointer to, very good indeed. Keep going. Oh, down, down, down. Stop, up. Where it says Tzibur, that's it, go along that line. Thank you. Stop. Next word. Right. People can follow on the screen, or they've got it themselves. They can follow with their finger. I've got it here in my Gemara. Now, I've sent you this because it was an easiest thing to send, quite honestly, and it's from the Hamor HaKoton. The Hamor HaKoton is somebody called Rab Zerachia Halevi. Rab Zerachia Halevi was just slightly later than Rabbeinu Tam, from Provence, died in 1186. So it goes back a long way. He is quoting, as many people do, this view of Rabbeinu Hai. And Rabbeinu Hai was the last of the Gaonim, died in 1038. Let's see, he was 99 in that, I mentioned this before, he was 99. Imagine 1038, someone 99 must have been, totally out the ordinary, a 99-year-old. And Rabbeinu Hai Gaon writes something which is absolutely fascinating. And it's a totally different view on everything we've seen. Look at this, gentlemen. Rabbeinu Hai Gaon Zichrona Livrocha Kosav B'tshuvas, in an answer to a shaila that came his way. And the shaila we've asked was a question we've been asking. How comes they didn't know which one it was? How come we're doing all these different blowing? How comes the machlokas? It's a mitzvah which happens every single year. Now look at this, gentlemen. Carry on, please, on the pointer. Ki kosa b'tshuvas ki kabbalah hoisa biyodom. Next line. There was a kabbalah. It'd been passed down in the hands. De bein genuchi, bein yululi, kulhu teruois mikrion, which means you are yotze with any one of those. Oh my. Carry on. The nofik inish, a person is yotze. That's a word, strictly speaking of the word nofik means to come out. Yotze. Yedei choivosei, his obligation. Bahochi ubahochi, whether you blew a shvarim or you blew a trua. Now this is the fascinating. V'hoyu makoimos, there were places, be Israel, among Israel, different shuls, chalukim, b'min hogeim. They had different minhogim. Ika, there were those, da'ovid hochi, who behaved and acted in this way. Ve'ika, da'ovid hochi. Now just imagine this, gentlemen. You've got some learned gentlemen who know what's going on. Some people blow a shavarim. You've got this shul blowing a shvarim, and you've got this shul blowing a trua. Everybody is yotze. Carry on. Ubo Rabbi Avohu, Rabbi Avo came along, lahashvais haminhogos, to equate all the minhogim. You know what people used to say? Or lahachsir kol hamakoimos lemineg echod. There should be one custom here. You know why? Because it would not take too long for people to say, oh, they're Teruah people, or they're Shavorim people. We have nothing to do with them. It's a different Torah. But that's what people will soon say. Carry on. Shelo tahei machloikas benem. There should not be any machloikas between the various communities. One person saying my Teruah is much better than the Shavorim, or one person saying you've got a different Torah to us. I can't marry into your family. You're a Teruah people. I'm a Shavorim type of person. More than that, the Sidei Lohem, and he arranged for them, Kol HaMinhagos Ke'echad. I want, says Rabbi Avor, everybody to blow the same thing. And more than that, there is another option where you're also Yotze, which would be a Shavorim and a Teruah. I'm going to incorporate that because otherwise people will say, oh, he's just trying to make a bit of shalom. But of course, there's a difference. No, he's teaching people that in fact, any sound of the Shavorim Teruah would be okay. In fact, the Shavorim Teruah is also okay. But I want everybody to blow it. I do not want a machlokas in Klal Yisrael. Carry on. Ukoloshen hazeh motzinu lo b'tshuva. And this is the language he actually used in his reply to the question. Al techoshvu, do not think, bilvavchem in your heart, bilvavchem, yeah. Ki bi mei Rabbi Abo, at the time of Rabbi Abo, nofal sofek bedova, it suddenly became a doubt. Sheharei, because mishnayos, next line, kedumos, they're very early mishnayos. Achas omeres Teruah. In fact, one's a Mishnah, one's a Brisa, but it's of the same time frame. One talks about a Teruah of Sholosh Yavavis, B'Mishnah Seinu, keep going in the arrow. Va'achas Omeres, keep going, bit more. Va'achas Omeres Teruah is Sholosh Shemarim. So therefore, if it's so early, a Mishnah and a Brisa saying this, it's not that there's a machlokas. It's just telling you the Mishnah said this and the Brisa said this. Now, this is the interesting wording. V'hodu omrinon continues. V'hodu omrinon. Behedya explicitly. Omer Abaya said, V'ho pligi, they argue. V'kachoyo hadobo. Yeah, 1 minute. Yes. So in other words, he's going to focus on this word argument. It doesn't mean literally an argument. It means a difference. When you say there's a plige, you can translate it in two ways. Plige means there's a difference between the two. Now, normally when there's a difference, that means there's an argument and one holds this and one holds this. No. But Abai is saying this is definitely different. But it doesn't mean there's an argument. Carry on. V'kach Hoyo Hadova Miyomim Kadmonim, from the earliest times, Minig B'chol Yisrael, the Minig in Yisrael, Mehen Oisin Trua Yuvavos. Some people use the Yuvavos, Kalos, shorter, yeah. Well, Mehen, there was some communities, Teruos, Yuvavos, Kavedos. Longer notes, the Shavarim, Sheim Shavarim. Keep going. They fulfilled their obligation. So did the other group. Why? Ki shavarim kevedim, the long-sounding shavarim. That's a Teruah haim. And also Yavavos, the shorter notes. Kalos, the short cry. That's also Teruah haim. This is the actual wording he's got in his answer, and the matter appeared kachaluka as a machlokas, because the word used in the Gemara pligi, it sounds like it is a machlokas. Afal pi, even though she'ena chaluka, even there's no difference. Bahare hatanoim, these tanoim, kamoshe omanu lamala, as we mentioned before, halolu shonim shir teruah. Gimel Yavavos, some calculated as 3 Yavavos. Halolu shonim shir teruah gimel shavarim. Carry on. Elu mishnosom kumin hogam. Elu mishnosom kumin hogam. Then Abaya says, Baho pligi there, pligi. Now we normally translate pligi as an argument. Says Rabbeinu Ahai, V'la plugti, it's not an argument. V'lohoyu elu mat'im, from the word tos. They didn't say the other people are making a mistake, es elu. Carry on. But elu mat'im es elu. One group didn't say the others were wrong. Elamar ki asrei, one's sir held like his area. Umar ki asrei, like his whatever the minig was. Katoni, that's what the Gemara means. V'chachomim shel halolu moidim, they would agree. Ki shavorim teruah he, the shavorim can be a teruah. V'chachomim shel halolu moidim, the chachomim of the other group would agree. Ki avavas teruah, that's also fine. Just finish.
We still have a question though. He hasn't asked the question how the two. All right, he's just pushing it back a bit. But why did two different traditions grow up? Though?
I tell you, that's not that's missing here, but it's in the original. The original wording says, whatever you fancy, whatever you like. Maybe it depends on the Baal Tukea, whatever he likes. It says, Maho Yofe, very, very interesting. It says, Maho Yofe Be'eneim.
Right, but we're talking about a mitzvah d'oraisa. We're talking about a serious mitzvah here.
Yes.
And there's three significant differences in the Kabbalah on something like...
No. That's exactly what I was saying. They all agreed there are three options here. Do what you like, gentlemen. That's wonderful. It's meant to be a cry. You can cry how you like, whatever a cry. The mitzvah is a cry. Some people took that on. Some people took that on. Rabbi Bo says, in fact, there is a third option. I'm going to do that as well. And I want to combine them all just to show that each one is fine. The mitzvah is yavava, which means crying. Whatever you like to call a cry, you can, within reason, which means it's a long cry, it's a short cry, that's fine. And the Lashon used, I saw in the Ritzvah brings the Lashon, whatever was yofer be'eneim, what they liked. Fine.
But then why do we go to such lengths nowadays to cover all the bases?
Very good. That's exactly the point.
Any of them are good. Yeah.
That's exactly the point. It would not. Very wonderful. We're attending a shiur and we're learning the halachas. It would not take long for the 3 times a year people to come to shul and say, "Oh, that shul, they're Shiur people. I don't want to have anything to do with them." My grandfather never had a teruah. No. He wouldn't allow teruah to be blown. I have nothing to do with those people. They've gone off. I'm so terribly sorry. The reformers coming in here? No. My grandfather, I'm always a teruah. Never heard anything like this shmorim. Not realizing that, in fact, it's true. It's one of the rare occasions where the Torah just said a cry, whatever you want to blow, whatever. You've got these three options. Whatever one of those three you like to do. But it would not take long for people to end up with a machlokas between. That's exactly what he says here. It'll end up with a machlokas, and people think, no, it's not good enough for me. It is good enough for me. Nothing to do with these people. And you can see the split getting wider and wider as time goes on, and people adopting their custom. And therefore, Rabbi Bo felt, Ad kan, I can't let this continue on because I know what's going to happen. It's at the time of Rabbi Bo in the Amoraim, see, we are in exile. We're going further into exile and spending. We hope not. We hope very soon back to Eretz Yisrael, but we're more into exile. We can't let this take hold. Keep going. Just to finish this off.
Sorry, just one question, but then you'd really have more than 3 options. You can have any number of options.
No. It looks like it's got to be a cry. We've followed that through. It's either the longer cry or the shorter cry, whichever one you want of those, or the combination, the build up, though, that's what you can blow. You've got these 3. In fact, the Gemara asked that question. What about the other way around? You can't do the other way around. That's not what crying means. It's true. So in other words, you're quite right, Simon. There is certainly, we do know the cry. It's either from the shavorim, the teruah, or the combination. You've got one of those 3 to choose from. You could have done any one of those, but you can imagine what can happen. Now, just finish this off and you'll see. Keep going. Ukeshebo Rabbi Abo Ro, he saw, Letzakein, to institute, Takona, a universal Takona, Sheyukol Yisrael, Oisin, Maise, Echod. I want one way to perform this mitzvah. But this is the point you raised, Simon. V'lo yireh beinei, or yeroy is probably better. It shouldn't appear in their eyes. And I say, you haven't got these people, they're not all Talmidei Chachomim. Doba, Amata, look at this lashon
not in their eyes.
I'm sorry?
It's not be'einehem, it's beinehem.
Thank you. Absolutely right. Below Yeroi, Beinayim, it shouldn't appear among them. Thank you. Very good call. Yeah. Dovo something. Sheha hedyotos. What's the hedyotos? It means the people who are not Talmidei Chacham, shall we say? Man in the street.
The man on the Clapham bus.
Yeah, the Clapham omnibus. We do know that some people like that. Yeah, Sheha hedyotos royin. They look at this. There's your royin. Quite right. Oysa, it looks like Kahalukah. Full stop. Elu Devorov Shel Rabbeinu Hai Gorn Zichroinu Nebrocha. And this is the Balamor writing this, not that much later than him. As I say, that remember we said Rabbi Hai Gorn died in 1038. No, it could be 100 years, 150 years later. But look at this lovely Loshen. Vahein Tovim, they are good. V'noim u'mesukim midbash. V'noifetz tufim. This is sweeter than honey, or noifetz tufim means droppings from honeycombs. What a beautiful, wonderful pshat, which answers. Now, if I can go back to vision here, can we remove that? Just put it back. Thank you very much. Now, going back to the question we raised before, 2 points. Number one, we asked, how come Rav Avira in Daf Lamed Daled asked the question one way, and then with Ravina asked the question the other way? Says Reb Shlomo Zalman, that's why they're two different, because they're coming from their perspective. Go back to Lamed Daled in Rosh Hashanah, at the bottom. He said, V'dilmo, Maskif Rav Avira. 6 lines up. Maskif Rav Avira, V'dilmo Yululi Hava. Maybe it's Yululi. Said Reb Shlomo Zalman, because that was his minig. His minig was Yululi. So he's saying, you Rav Avira, you're instituting now Shvorim, Teruah, Tekiah. Maybe it's meant to be just to the Teruah. And then 1 line later, Maskif Ravina, V'dilmo Genuchi. Maybe it's meant to be the Shvorim. He says, he's suggesting the Ravina was originally from the camp where they just had Shvorim. So he's asking from his perspective and from his home where they are Shvorim people. So he said, Rabbi, I don't understand what you're doing. Maybe it's meant to be a Shvorim. And he said, no, I'm doing that as well. If you're trying to bring in both these minhagim. But the point, and now we do have an answer to our Tosfos. Do you remember, Tosfos asked at the beginning of today's learning, some people had the minig of Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofar Zebru, Kashrak, Kashak, Karak. So he said, make your mind up. You should do them all. Until we had Rabbi Ben Tam, who just said Kashrak. Well, according to Rabbi Bo, that's beautiful. Because in fact, you've already been Yotza what Rabbi Bo instituted before. Now you're just doing a blowing. So any one of those counts, and that's fine. And there'll be no problem about the machlokas here because you're doing all of them. So don't worry about the machlokas, in which case we'll do a kashrak, we'll do a kashak and a karak. Beautiful. And so therefore, a fundamental point, I'll just mention one other interesting halacha, which comes up.
That would be lav dafka. I mean, you could do karak, or you could do kashak, you do whichever you like, because it
Min HaTorah you could. Yeah. So what are you saying? Sorry?
Norman.
Well, no, because
sorry, hold on. Simon, what's the point?
The question that we had in Tosfos was kashrak, and then he says they did kashak and karak. And now we're saying, well, you're yotza with kashrak in the first instance, and now you just get on because both are valid. So you could do kashak and karak, but in the similar way, you could do something else. You could do karak.
You could.
Kashak
Absolutely. Then you're falling foul of what Rabbi Bo always wanted to do.
That's
He
the
doesn't
problem.
want to be a machlokas in Klal Yisrael.
So that's the problem.
Once you start blowing, you're almost saying it's really the Karaks. We're doing the others just to keep them happy, but we're really truer people.
So that's again.
Let's not go down there.
That's a problem in Tosfos again, then, because
No. That's why Tosfos said. That's why you have this minhag of doing kashrak, kashak, karak for Malchus, Zichronis, and Shofros. I'm blowing all the options. Every one of them is Yotzer. Tosfos' question was
the other way around.
What do you mean? That's what the first wide line. For your royal, it's Kobishas Malchus. You should blow kashrak, kashak, karak. And for Zichron, if you don't know which one it is, a couple of lines earlier, the minhag was to blow kashrak. Remember, Achshav Noagin Mitzvah Yeshiva for kashrak, and Gimel kashak, and Gimel karak. With Tfilah Tokin Amalchis, two narrow lines up, kashrak, Azichronis kashak, Ashofros karak. So we asked on that, Tosfos asks on that, you can't do that. You can't just have 1, 1, 1. And you said either one's correct, or maybe 2 if you like, but you won't have 3 out of 3. According to Rabbi, you've got 3 out of 3, and it's wonderful, you've covered yourself. So it turns out there's a fundamental point here for Rabbi. Whether we paskin like Rabbi or not is something different. Whether this is, and some people do disagree. They'd say, no, we take this literally, it's a suffix, we don't know, but then you end up with this massive problem. Why do we take on just paskin? What's happened here? We don't have the paskin? Paskin like the Mishnah you'd expect. What's going on here? And you end up with all these problems. But this solves these problems beautifully, saying each one of those is correct, and the reason Rabbi wanted to bring it together is really to solve and ensure there be no machlokas in Israel. So with that, gentlemen, it's wonderful just to conclude that. And of course, we did mention before.
Norman, can I ask a question?
Yes, somebody got a question there, yes.
Right. Just one thought. Yehuda Nasi decides to include the Mishnah rather than the Braita.
That was the minute.
Presumably, he did that because his view was to support the Mishnah's version of things.
According to Rabbi, that was his minhag, and therefore he's putting that in the Mishnah. But he would not be saying there might be others, but that's what I'm putting in the Mishnah. That's what I've been doing from my father's house upwards. The Brisa said, no, we have this. And at the time, it may not have been a problem at all, because everybody realized there was another option, fine. But later on, and Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, it's in Eretz Yisrael, as you're moving on and we're going into exile, Rabbi Bo, that's a major thing to do if you think what Rabbi Bo did. Besides lengthening the service, to a place where they always just blew like Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, just to the truest. I want you to go Shvarim, the poor Baal Tukea, and to get Shvarim Teruah. It's a major takana he's instituting here. But he's doing it, Laman HaSholem. The people should not think, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, that's different to the Brisa. We end up with, how can I have such a big machlokas? So it's beautiful, he's pulling the whole thing together. So I say, because Laman HaSholem, and that's a wonderful word that we want to use, Laman HaSholem, and I say, what a wonderful way to finish before we conclude for Rosh Hashanah. So I hope that's brought it together with Rabbi Bo. It doesn't mean, however, if you do blow somewhere, I'll just do the Shvarim because I'm good at those. You do have to blow the whole lot. Because there are some Rishonim who disagree with Rabbi Haigon and say, no, it still remained, it's a machlokas. As you say, Sam, the Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, and he felt, no, this is correct. I disagree with the Brisa. It's Rabbi Haigon who brings it together in this way. Whatever happens, we do blow all, and those people who only know how to do one should not be about to care, unless you can actually blow all the different types, the Shvarim Teruah and the Shvarim and the Teruah itself. Let me just finish with today, and
Sorry, can I ask
One
a
of the
very
words
quick?
we're going to constantly. Yeah, go please.
Sorry,
Yes.
just very quick. Sorry, about the
Yeah.
minimum number. The minimum number that you're halachically you're supposed to blow to be yotzi, because
Yes.
the thing is, yeah, obviously we're taking now the idea if it really was, if they were all, if you said they were all equivalent, then your minimum would be actually less. But because there's this,
Correct. You're right.
however,
You're right.
so what is
You're
it? Is it 9? Is it 30? Is it, what is it?
We Paskin, it's 30. There's very interesting. I didn't want to mention, well, I perhaps might.
Sorry.
So imagine, this is amazing halacha for you, gentlemen. Imagine Rosh Hashanah is on a Thursday, Friday. Amazing case here. And some people say that the Mishnah Berurah, and he's quoting from the Mati Ephraim, is focusing very much on because of this halacha. Listen to this, we'll conclude with this. There's a community out in the wild somewhere. Thursday, Friday was Rosh Hashanah, not like this year. And here we are. Eventually, Friday afternoon, someone comes panting in the shul. He's come from miles away. He's just made it. He's come with his shofar. This community didn't have a shofar. They had a Thursday, Friday without a shofar. They're waiting for somebody to come. Whatever happened, delayed, don't know. He knocks on the door flies open. You can imagine the shul. There he is, panting away, and he's holding the shofar. This is Friday afternoon. Not just Friday afternoon, they've already davened Ma'ariv on Friday night. But it's still not actually dark. But they've done Ma'ariv. If you've done Ma'ariv, it's Shabbos. They've davened Ma'ariv, so they've been Makabel Shabbos, although it's the sun has not set, doesn't matter, but they were Makabel Shabbos.
They can hear a shofar on Shabbos.
Yeah, but everybody's Makabel Shabbos.
Yeah, but they can hear a shofar. You can't blow a shofar on Shabbos. He hasn't been Shabbos yet.
Oh, no, this Fay who's coming, no. I mean, it sounds like everybody's Makabel. He's coming with his shofar. It sounds like he's got a shofar. He's not a Baal Tukea. He's just a poor shaliach. He's a shaliach who's walked in with the shofar. He can't blow. They've got a community, the whole community. They've got their Baal Tukea in the shul, but they've all been Makabel Shabbos. It's not dark, but they were Makabel Shabbos. But they've got a mitzvah to hear shofar. So what are they meant to do here? They have not heard the shofar. So it says, in this instance, says the Mishnah Berurah, quoting in Mati Ephraim, you can blow the shofar, but without a bracha. Because strictly speaking, blowing the shofar, as Malcolm will tell you, although if you're a professional, a Baal Tukea, it's not considered a malacha, it's a chokhmah, blowing the shofar. Why we don't blow the shofar on Shabbos is not because it's a malacha. We don't go one. That's going to take us another long shiur. Why we don't blow the shofar? You might actually go across the tchum and carrying the shofar. It's carrying the shofar which is a problem on Shabbos. It's not the malacha. So there's a Baal Tukea who's sitting there in the community. They've Makabel Shabbos. It therefore is no longer Rosh Hashanah, but it still is Rosh Hashanah because it's actually not dark. So the halacha is someone who's a Baal Tukea can blow without the bracha. How many tekiyas should he blow? This is the point I think, Malcolm, you're making. V'lo yiska rak tishkia shavorim trua tekiya kashrak kashak karak v'lo yoser. This is now the real minimum. This is where we're really hitting the minimum, because they're Makabel Shabbos. What would you say would be the real minimum? Kashrak, Kashat, and Karat. No, Karak, yeah. You've got to blow the three options. Those, now, if you'll tell me that only one of those is correct, maybe two, but so you're not going to get three, what is the point of blowing just 10? You've got to blow 30. In this instance, we'd actually go like, it seems like we're going like Rabbeinu Hagorn, and we're saying, we're trying to minimize as much as possible because it's already Shabbos and we don't blow the shofar on Shabbos. When the real minimum, then would go down to 10. So we see it looks like this view of Rab Hagorn actually does come in, but I'm saying that's the only that's an exception. So if you are blowing Malcolm, you're going anywhere to blow, it's 30 kolas you want to blow. The person can then make a bracha, Nishma Kol Shofar. Shechionu, there is so it's all on the Sunday, the Shechionu on the Sunday. But if you're going anywhere, yes, it is 30 kolas. So you ask your minimum is 30. I say this is a real exception where you're, I say, dropping it down to real minimum. But otherwise, it's just 30. So with that, gentlemen, I wish you well.
Sorry, Norman, can I just ask, and there is no exception in communities where there's an Eruv and it's kosher to blow on Shabbos?
No. Once you do that, then there'll be places where there is no Eruv.
So you're chumrah about it. That's really what it is.
Yeah. If you think about it, it is just, I think it's mind-boggling. Because if you think over all the, now we're talking about 2,000 years already, since this institution, it's from the Mishnayos. Thousands, millions of people have not heard the shofar. All these years, over 2,000 years, because maybe somebody will carry the shofar on Shabbos in a place without an Eruv. Amazing. So you say, wow, that's a bit far. I think the point is, it's Kedushas Shabbos is teaching us that. Unbelievable. If we would understand what Kedushas Shabbos means and the concern about maybe actually carrying in a place on Shabbos, for us, we're so far removed from this. But if it's that fearful, like a hand in the fire, then people were very concerned. The Rabbonim were very concerned. Chas v'shalom. We're doing this Aver of Shabbos. So I think it's not this year, because this year it's not, it is this year. That's exactly the point I think you're raising, Simon. So on that Shabbos, I think it teaches us a very powerful lesson. And the lesson is the concern of Chilul Shabbos. And I think that, if there's anything we should be focusing on, we're talking, and I'm pleased you raised it, Simon, because of course this year being the Shabbos, is you'd say, wow, come on, there's an Eruv all over the place now. Wherever you look, it's Israel, everywhere's got an Eruv, and you still don't blow. No, because once you start, there'll be places without an Eruv, they'll be carried. And it may be, how many people are likely to carry it, and what are you talking about? The concern and the worry of Chilul Shabbos was so powerful, so strong, because they understood what it meant, Chilul Shabbos, which sadly we don't. Therefore, that, I'm afraid, means we don't blow the shofar. But it does mean we're doing it because of the Kedushas Shabbos. So I think if there's anything we should be focusing on and thinking about over, as we say, Rosh Hashanah, is maybe in some way trying to have an extra Kedushas Shabbos, whatever we can do in that area, certainly reducing the Chilul Shabbos as much as I say, because the concern here is we're not blowing the shofar because of Shabbos. So therefore, if we want that to stand for us, then of course we must actually behave in accordance with the halacha, and therefore, as much as we can, have the Kedusha Shabbos. I will just conclude, however, I mentioned this before, that really is the conclusion now. There's another very interesting halacha. We're running well over time. Did I mention this last time? It says here, after Musaf, last notes, here we are. Tziba Yochid Eina Mafsik. I'm going through all the Shulchan Aruch here. What I want to mention was, here we are. Siman Tov Kuf Tzadi Zayin, which is 597 in the Shulchan Aruch, says the following. We'll close with this. Oichlim v'shoisim u'smeichim. It's Rosh Hashanah, but oichlim v'shoisim u'smeichim. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Why? Remember we all know the pasuk. Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel liyom chagenu. When the moon is covered for this Yom Tov, because of course it's the beginning of the month, Rosh Hashanah at the beginning of the month, there's no moon, but it's called a Chag. Says the Mishnah Berurah, therefore there's a mitzvah of a Samachta b'chagecha which applies to Rosh Hashanah as well. It's an amazing, and there's a pasuk in Nehemiah which says, Ichlu mashmanim v'shasu mamsakim ki kodesh Hashem la'adoneinu, which means the following. It's this combination, Ibdu es Hashem b'yira. There's this fear and awe. It's Rosh Hashanah, that they, as we say, judgment. But at the same time, Klal Yisrael must have this feeling, a positive feeling. The feeling of Simcha, that is Simchas Yom Tov as well. So it's got to be coupled, that together with Ibnu es Hashem b'Simcha. It's this combination that's typical of Yiddishkeit, where we're combining different feelings together as we approach the Yom Tov. So yes, it is the day of awe, absolutely. But it's also Yemei Rotzon, and that's mentioned everywhere. It's the days of Rotzon. There's say favor from us. And the word Rotzon, I'll finish with, I keep saying I'm finishing. Rotzon meaning appeasing. L'ratzois is we're appeasing, but also pleasing. And that's why it's Kabbe Barachamim over Rotzon. We should be pleased. Hashem should be pleased with us almost. Yeah, exactly. Ritzei Hashem Elokeinu b'amcho Yisrael b'sfil osom. This loshon of Yila Rotzon Imrei Fi. The words of our mouth should be pleasing to Hashem, and our actions similarly. And with that, this idea of this Rotzon that we want, Yemei Rotzon, hopefully we can look forward to, say, a good Geven Shiur, one and all, a Ksiva Chasima Tova for everybody. And I say everybody should have a wonderful Yom Tov, very uplifting Yom Tov. Good to see you.